There we are. No, you said that at the wrong end of the show, Randy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cubist. I am Bill Corey. I am the Cubist, and I'm excited. I have the brain trust behind split-second games here with me today. First of all, I'm gonna let you guys. Should I let you guys introduce yourselves, or should I?
I'm going to feel incredibly self-conscious if you do that.
All right, that's fine. In that case, first we have Paul Imboden. Hi, Paul. How's it going?
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. It's been a year. It's been at least a year.
It has been. It has been. And this time we also have Randy Field. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Bill, and everybody. I'm super happy to be here for the first time, and I look forward to coming back in about a year or so.
You know what? We have about a 1-year rotating chair policy, so that totally works out. And as always, we have the pretty half of the Kemp family. Brandon Kemp, you are here with us.
Oh, I thought Lorenzo was behind me. I was kind of worried.
I'm just saying that because I'm hoping she'll watch the show and be mad at me when she sees me next. Anytime I can get short stick a quarter in her, I can call it a win. So there you go.
Yep.
That's her name. I didn't make that up. All right, enough inside baseball. So today's episode is called Testing the Waters. We're going to talk about the playtesting process. Specifically, I want to talk about it from the publisher's side of things because and I'll get to my story about this. There's a reason that I wanted to talk about this today. But before we get into that, let's talk about stuff we've been playing lately. I think that, we're gamers, right? So we got to talk about this stuff. Paul.
Yeah.
What have you played lately?
I have been playing a lot of the Essen releases lately. There's been every year we have a huge Essen spectacular here in Chicago where we get about 40 or 50 of the games, and we've got about 3 weeks to learn everything before we show them off to about 100 people who come just for this event. So I got tasked with a few things, and the things that really stuck out to me from this year's batch are, I'm going to kill the name of it. It's like Hanama Koji. It's a two-player owned. Yeah, exactly. It is a two-player game in the style of Battle Line.
Okay.
But each of the decisions, each of the rounds only lasts for 4 actions, and most of the actions are: here are 3 cards. You pick the card you want, and I get the other 2. So many of the interactions are like that force your opponent to take half of the choices. The decisions are tough each and every time. It plays in about 10-15 minutes. It sings. The other one that really jumped out at me was
hang on. Time out. One game at a time, because we have the patented Cubist rating scale that you have to give.
Buy it. I already buy it. This is a hard buy it.
Is this have American release?
Not to my knowledge yet, but if you can find it, you could probably get it through Fun Again.
Okay, sure.
And so another one, Hanama Koji.
Okay, and maybe I'll put this in the show notes. If I'll have Paul type it out and put the name of it, just because I have no idea how one would spell that. So, all right. So we'll let you. We'll break the rules and let you talk about another one, Paul. Go for it. What's the other one?
Another one is, it's so ambitious that I appreciate it for what it is. It's The Colonist. It's by somebody I've never seen before, and he has put together a sprawling civ-based Euro game. Like it is a hardcore resource management game that covers multiple aspects of multiple eras, and through all of them, you are dealing with outside colonies that you can set up embassies with and continue having relations that give you better ways to do various things in the game. It is so ambitious that I had to bring up some note of it, because what it's trying to do in 4 hours is kind of incredible. So if you're looking for something that is familiar yet is pushing you further into unknown territory, and if you're a Euro gamer, you're going to be playing games like this, I really recommend you give it a try. I would put it as a try it.
That's a play it?
Yes. It's a play it. And they're going to say there's an intro level game for it, and I would say you should not judge it by its intro level game. You should go at least 2 eras to get the real feel of what it's trying to do. Each era is a little dry in and of itself, but it spreads itself out very well.
Yep. I'm anxious to hear how Mayfair markets this one and how they get it out to here.
So am I.
I feel like so is this from the Lookout brand part of Mayfair, or is this Mayfair proper?
I believe it's through Lookout. It might be through Mayfair straight.
Okay.
I believe it. I don't believe it.
Don't believe it.
It's through Mayfair, and that's my main draw. So that's
sure. For sure. I feel like I've heard snippets about this one a lot.
It is Lookout Mayfair.
Yeah.
It is Lookout. Okay, I kind of thought that it was the Lookout branch of things, just because I feel like that's the path that Mayfair has sort of gone down. Is the bigger, heavier stuff is going to be their Lookout titles, and then the lighter or more family oriented, or possibly the train oriented. I have no inside knowledge on any of this. I'm literally just spitballing here.
And let us be clear: this is a $95
it's a
10-pound game. You are getting your money's worth of cardboard out of this silly thing.
Yeah.
Is it on your shelf already, Brandon?
It is not, but
is it going to be?
It will be. If you listen to our show, good gosh, we talked about, or we didn't talk about it. Joe Wiggins talked about it this week for a good 15, 20 minutes. He was absolutely in love with it.
Would that be the What Did You Play This Week podcast thing? Is that the show that you're referring to?
Well, we talk about that later.
Cross pitch.
That's part of why. That's part of why I like having Brandon help me out as co-host, because his podcast is fantastic. It's the It is the Justice League of podcast. Is that how I heard it referred to?
That was one referring. Yes,
I like that. I can get behind that.
And I'm Aquaman.
You get to be Aquaman? That doesn't seem fair. I think. All right. Well, those both sound awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really hoping that I can get a play of the Colonists in at BGG next week. And that's one of the games. I mean, I made the joke about the quote unquote short list of how many games I want to play at BGG, and at this point, I suspect I need to attend about 7 consecutive BGGs to get them all in. But
this year has been extraordinarily good.
Yeah. But I'm hoping that that's one of the ones that's pretty high on my list, because I am all about heavy thinky Euro civ building stuff. I mean, that's my jam all day. So if I can get this one to the table, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Randy,
yeah,
been very quiet except for your vaping back there. It's all right, brother.
I'm an annoying, horrible person.
You are neither of those things. You are, however, a gamer, and I bet you've gotten to play some stuff. What have you played?
I'll tell you, this last week has been really, really off for me. But I got to bust out. It'll dig back. I haven't played anything new this last week, or even really recently. But I busted out one of my favorite hateful head-to-head competition games, Risk Express, which I have a print and play copy that I bought off a dude at a convention, convention a number of years ago. Now on the market as Art of War from Fantasy Flight.
Gotcha.
Dice placement, stealing cards, trying to build sets. You can steal them from each other or from the middle of the table. It's definitely a ratcheting tension every roll. If you don't match it, you have to throw away a die from the pool, try again, keep going until you inevitably fail. Swear loudly, take drinks, pass the dice. Repeat. It's a delightfully hateful game. As you curse your opponents and your own horrible luck for the duration of a game until things spin on a dime at the end, and you end up pulling a win out of nothing.
Nice. So,
and West Africa cannot be taken.
No, there you have West Africa. I hear a story in there. Nice. So let me ask you this. Obviously, the Fantasy Flight version being Art of War, they've obviously had to distance themselves from the name Risk for obvious reasons. Yeah. But it clearly has its origins in Risk, because otherwise your version wouldn't be called Risk Express. Is it like, is that a good title for it? Does it feel like, or at least the version that you have? I'm sure that Art of War is different enough, probably. But.
Well, I mean, in Art of War, they made it like a Japanese feudalist territory control kind of game.
Sure.
And it doesn't need to be branded as a Risk game. I believe it was an English release, or an England release, UK.
Sure. British, I got you.
But yeah, never got the publishing rights over here because obvious reasons. But but yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, you're trying to take over the world, so there's that. There's a luck. There's a press your luck. There's a direct head-to-head competitive. But at no point am I wiping out your units or trading one dude for or 5 dudes for a horsey or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. I gotta say the one thing that always keeps me coming back, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, the thing that makes me okay with playing Risk and this is just Risk, and I know this is a tangent, I'm sorry, but is that every once in a while you will have the one unit sitting in Kamchatka that can hold off 412 marauding heathens from somewhere along the way, and it's that Rambo moment where, because there's always one, right? It happens every time. It's the Rambo moment, right? You have your Rambo unit who just sits there and guns down a million things. Those moments are why I am convinced that stuff like that is why Risk still gets played, because really, if you don't have those ridiculous streaks of luck, Risk can be awful. Like,
well, that's when the stories happen, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You start naming that guy after that fight. Like he has a
the Rambo moment. That's why he's a Rambo moment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, props to you, Bill, that your go-to territory at Risk is also Kamchatka.
It's fun to say. It's the name that's most fun to say for me. Is really what it comes down to.
Yes.
It used to be Yakutsk and Irkutsk.
Irkutsk and Yakutsk. Yes,
because those are hard to say, and therefore it was funny for me. But yeah, Kamchatka is that word only exists in risk boxes, I believe, at this point in the world's career. So there's that. So all right, so Risk Express. Obviously, we can't give it a buy it because it's a print and play that you bought off of a dude at a convention.
Right.
Have you seen the production of Art of War? Like, have you?
Yes.
Okay. Is the game basically identical except for the retheme?
Yeah, it's got different maps, but I believe it's Risk Express stands out that each continent is color coded. It's easy to be able to visualize and see what's going on. All that the same cues, the same playability carried over to Art of War very well. The dice are custom molded with weird special symbols.
Right, because it's Fantasy Flight.
Mine just have stickers on them, which are whatever. But Art of War. I love the production on Art of War. I think they did a great job. Comes in a really small package, and I think you can get it for like $15, something like that. So it is very much so a backpack game. Very much so a bust out of the table. You can teach someone how to play it while you're going through the first turn, basically.
Oh, nice! I love it. I was like that. So. And the Cubist,
so an absolute buy it.
It's a buy it. All right, very cool. Look at all this positive mojo we got going today. I like this. It's a play it and 2 buy it's already.
No, I can tell you terrible ones. You want me? I can just go on for days.
Yeah. Well,
now let's talk about Paradox.
Oh no! You mean wait? What?
Oh! Look at that!
Right there, right
next
there
to Among the Stars and Roll Through the Galaxy.
Yeah, this is the space shelf. This is the space shelf. Ignore Scotland Yard.
Mine occupies a space next to Agricola in the other room. So
there you go.
Wow.
See,
well, thank you, gentlemen.
It's a good, solid game.
It really is.
And I'm not just saying that because you're on my show and I hope for sponsorship someday. It's a good, solid game. So, all right, Brandon, have you played anything lately?
I have played nothing except for some like Animal Upon Animal.
Hang on. Talk about Animal Upon Animal, because I personally have heard approximately 8 kabillion people talk about this game, but no one ever actually explains how it works. So talk to the rest of us as if you've never played it, right? Like you hear about it all the time, but nobody ever talks about it.
That's funny because we didn't really play it by the rules. We just
animals.
Well, so,
that's not helpful at all.
I can talk about the rules.
Great radio.
I was going to say Animal Upon Animal is just it's a stacking game, a fun little stacking game for families. Everybody has a set of, I think, 7 animals, different varieties. You got a snake, and I forget all the other ones because we have like 5 different versions, so they all have different animals.
Oh, wow.
And so one of them you're playing like Crest Climbers has a mountain in the middle that sits in the middle of the table. The regular one has a crocodile in the middle of the table. And then on your turn, you have a die and you roll it. And that die is going to tell you how many to put out there, 1 or 2, or whether you can hand it to somebody else and make them stack it on top of things or place it at the ends of the alligator. And basically, you're just trying to get all your animals stacked.
Okay. That sounds awesome.
That's it. If things fall over, you take them in and you just keep going.
That sounds super fun.
Yep,
All right,
it is.
so there's apparently 7 versions of it out there.
There are tons of versions. We have the balancing bridge one, which has a bridge going across the middle that if you fall into the lava, and different ones. There's a spinning one that turns in circles.
That's the one I like, where you stack them up and then you have to turn the table to the next person.
So aggravating.
Yes.
That's the one that gets the least play. And then you got the regular ones, the crest climbers, which is just a mountain instead of an alligator, and then the regular one is an alligator. But yeah, there's tons of different ones.
So are these is Animal Upon Animal Haba?
They are Haba.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and the beautiful yellow boxes.
Okay, so buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it.
If you have a family of younger kids, it's a buy it. If you just want something fun to stack and mess around with, and people who have kids, buy it. But otherwise, yeah, just play it and have fun whenever you see it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm starting to think, and Pretzel Games was kind enough to sponsor the launch episode of the show and donate a copy of Junk Art so that I could give out. That's actually what I was delivering today, because it turns out that shipping a huge wooden box full of more wood is really expensive when you try to ship it to Canada. So, yeah, but I'm thinking it feels like at this point that Junk Art might be the pinnacle of stacking games for not families, right? Like, I mean, it can also be played. I'm saying it's fine with family, but if you're looking for a dexterity game for you and not necessarily for the kids, I feel like Junk Art has kind of cornered the market this year. It's just such
Junk Art, and what's the other one? I mean, there's so many other really wonderful Bamboleo. With the flat, and you're balancing that and stacking.
Rhino Hero still gets all the
Rhino Hero, yeah.
Oh yeah, Rhino Hero is awesome. Rhino Hero feels like the drinking game version, right? Like I feel like Rhino Hero is the one that you grab a 12-pack of something halfway decent.
You are not playing Junk Art to its full.
That's true. That's true. That's fair. I definitely am not.
I feel like most games are drinking games as well as.
They can be,
yes, fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
sure.
What I want to see is somebody take Junk Art and tie it together with the RPG Dread.
Sure. The one that uses Jenga?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's potential there for something truly horrific and weird.
This is like the third time. This is like the third time that Dread has come up in conversation in the last couple of weeks. I think
Dread is so good.
I think I might have to get a copy of it. Speaking of things that come up in conversation a lot.
Yeah.
If you have been following me on Twitter for the last 7 days and paying attention, you know that there is exactly one game that I've been playing, and that is Feast for Odin. Has been hitting from Z-Man Games, the newest of the Uwe games, and everyone's sick of this game but me. Sorry, suck it up, Brandon, because I've been talking about this for a minute. So
I'm not sick of it. I haven't touched it yet. So
it's my friend Randy that comes to my game days on Tuesday brought it last week, and he found the rule book impenetrable. So he left it here and he said, "Hey, can you learn this so we can play? You know, are you okay with that?" And I said, yes. If you want to loan me your great game so that way I can learn it, absolutely. And since then, I have a 4-player game and 6 solo plays under my belt in the last 7 days.
Well, so
it took up my game table for 4 days without getting taken down because I found this solo play so compelling. So the way that I described it, I did a Periscope video on it a few days ago. The way that I described it is basically take Agricola, Fields of Arle, and Patchwork, all Uwe Rosenberg games, shove parts of them all into one box, and then put a new name on it and a different theme. And you sort of have a Feast for Odin, and that is a good thing. So it has the central worker placement board a la basically every game that he's made in his farming series, right? So starting with Agricola, then Caverna, then Fields of Arle. This is the spiritual successor to those 3. You have the central worker placement thing, but you also have your own personal board. Unlike the other games, however, your personal board, you're basically playing a huge game of Tetris. So this is where Patchwork comes in, is you're taking tiles, you're creating tiles and putting them on your little board to cover up negative points and to earn more income to give you the ability to do more things. Along the way, there are occupation cards a la Agricola that you earn piecemeal. You start with one and you earn more as you take actions that allow you to draw them. And then you have to take other actions that allow you to play them. And those work just like the occupations in Agricola. They're going to give you a couple victory points, sometimes more than a couple, and they're going to give you some special ability. that is a thing that only you can do, obviously. You play for 6 or 7 rounds, depending on whether you're playing the quote-unquote short game or not. I do not believe that that is a good moniker for the 6-round game. I'm just throwing that out there. I think that it would be better said. I think it's the standard game and the full game is a better way to say this, because really there's not a lot of difference between the 6 and 7 player game, except if you are playing multiplayer. I'm going to throw this out there. That 7th turn is going to be the longest turn. That's going to be 30% of your playtime will be that last turn, because the choices are more and more difficult. There's a lot more Tetris being played because everybody's frantically trying to fill their boards. So there's a lot of AP there. And there's going to be a lot of, oh God, which actions do I need right now moments. So you'll have, if you have an AP prone group, I would stay away from the 7-turn game with that group, because that 7th turn will be aggravated. Speaking of aggravation, I'm gonna spoil this by saying that I think that this is Uwe's best big box game. I think that this is, and that is high praise coming from me, because right over there you will see I have Caverna, Fields of actually you can't see it from here. Caverna,
I can see little bits of it on there.
Caverna and Fields of Arl have places of honor on my game shelf because they are some of my favorite games of all time, and I think Feast for Odin beats them. I think it becomes the one game, as Rich Summer and I were talking about this a couple days ago, and he said, "Is this the one?" And I said, "Yeah, I think this is the one." But there are production missteps that are going to make certain people really cranky. and I'm just going to throw this out there. Number one, have any of you played Fields of Arl?
I haven't. That's
Okay.
a gap.
All right, that's fine. It's got the central worker placement board similar to this one, to Feast for Odin. And on Fields of Arl, there are 30 worker placement spaces, only 15 of which you will commonly be able to access on any given turn. In Feast for Odin, there are 57 worker placement spaces that you can play, and 59 if you are playing a 4-player game, because you have a little add-on thing that you put on the bottom of the board. That board with 59 spaces is about 40% smaller than the board with 30 spaces. What? So basically, when you're trying to teach this game, you have this incredibly informationally dense thing in the center of the board. You have a big player mat in front of you that is necessarily between you and the board, which means that everyone, the first game, is going to be standing up and peering over this board, trying to figure out what the heck all the spaces do. Once you know how to play the game, this won't be an issue, but your learning game is going to suck, and it's going to suck to teach it as well as learn it. And I think that is I'm telling you right now, when I own this game, the first thing I will do is get a high-res scan of that board and print a blown-up version of it that's about 50% bigger, even though it's already a table hog, just because teaching this game without that sucks. It was rough. I played solo and then taught the 4-player game, and it was really, I found it extremely challenging, and I consider myself a pretty good game teacher, and I was really, it was one of the roughest learn/teaches I've ever had as a modern board gamer, and that's saying something, I think.
I'll be honest, when we were doing the Essen stuff, I had my choice of being able to do Feast of Odin or doing The Colonist, and I looked at the instructions for it, and I just went no. I just went no.
I think the rule book is good because it's written very similarly to the other rule books that Uwe has done, and I think all of those are solid, but it's very dense. There is a lot to take in a very short period of time, and I think that that too small game board is really it's just such a dumb mistake, because the box, it's not like a bigger board wouldn't have fit in that box. There's room. It's a big box. I mean, they make the thing, it's like a cinder block. This thing is, it's monstrous. So I don't know. That was dumb.
I remain a man alone in thinking that Le Havre is his best to this day.
I don't consider Le Havre part of the same series.
And maybe that's why I don't. Maybe that's why I like it so much.
And you are definitely not a man alone, by the way. I know a lot of people that Le Havre is the Uwe game of choice, and I don't blame them. I just feel like Le Havre is sort of in its own camp. Like, I don't feel like it's really in the same family as the other three. So, all right. So, on the Cubist scale, even with the production issues, I'm saying this is a buy it. And here is why. Number one, it is the best solo gaming experience of all of Uwe's games, and one of the best, period, that I have ever had. And I'm really starting to get into solo gaming, and this is an excellent one. Two, it fixes the one issue that I always had with Agricola and which is the occupation card information overload up front. So in Agricola, you get dealt those 7 cards, and then you get to stare like a monkey with a football for 20 minutes trying to figure out how you're going to make these things work for you. In Feast for Odin, you get 1, and then you earn and process them over the span of the game. So that way you don't have that overload moment. You can digest each card as it comes up and say, does this work for me or no? No? Okay. Yes. How about this one? Does this? Yes. Great. And then move forward, which means that all that upfront AP that killed Agricola for me in certain groups goes away with this. The last thing that I will say is that I think this game has legs for days. They included 3 separate starter decks and 3 regular decks of occupations, just like in original Agricola. So there was regular, interactive, and complex. They made these A, B, and C. So that way after you've gotten tired of one, now you move on to the next one. You get tired of that, you move on to the next one. You get tired of that, you start shuffling 2 of them together. There's replay for days on this. So you're not going to get bored with this one anytime soon. There are so many different paths that you can take. It's pretty. Once you get used to it, it's really pretty to look at. It's fun playing the Tetris thing, doing your little patchwork dealio on your little board is extremely fun and very thinky, but in a good way. Like it isn't brain burnery. It's just, I could do this or I could do this. Which one do I want to do? And do I want to go get this other board so I can play Tetris twice? And it's excellent. I cannot sing its praises enough. Even with the production missteps, this is making a serious run at Game of the Year for me. Like right now, this is definitely top 3. And right now, my top 3 have been Scythe, Terraforming Mars, and Mansions of Madness. And I think this knocks Mansions of Madness out.
I was about to say, one of those things is not like the others.
Yeah, well, but as I've talked about on the show a bunch, I like story arc in games. I want games to have a beginning, a build up, a climax, and then a resolution, just like a good movie or TV show. Mm-hmm. And Mansions of Madness is exactly what it is, right? Like that's the whole point of that game. So I love that. And when you can hand that to me with an awesome interactive app, that's great. And the other 2 do the same thing just as well. So yeah, it's definitely making a run at Game of the Year for me. It's really good. Feast for Odin from Z-Man, buy it. And it's not that expensive for the big box. I think it's $70. It's
only $800. That's it.
No, it's 70.
70?
Yeah, 70 MSRP. Maybe it might even be like 66. I mean, it's not bad considering that you're getting a cinder block full of.
You are getting a ton.
Yeah, it's really good. It's solid. All right. Well, that was awesome. I see all of us except Brandon have played lots of games, which is great. And Brandon, you will.
Someday he had to play Animal with his kids.
I played Patchwork and I played other things that are
the MSRP on that.
66. Yeah. See, it's not bad. Not bad. Yeah. All right, but none of these games exist without playtesting. See, that was my segue. How'd I do?
Ooh,
so yeah, I know. You like that? Yeah, I'm so good at this, you guys. I'm so good at this, you guys. So, I've had the pleasure of talking with a number of publishers on the Cubist since we relaunched. We've had, we had Renegade on just a few weeks ago. I had Randy from Foxtrot on here. We've had a few publishers on here, and I know that Split Second Games has a couple of things coming down the pipe. And so I wanted to talk about the playtesting process that goes into those things from a publisher standpoint. So a little backstory. I just went to a Protospiel event for the first time in a while. I'm an aspiring game designer myself, and I took a few prototypes and got a chance to catch up with Jay Little, who is the designer of one of the things you guys have in the pipe, and do a lot of playtesting with a lot of really fantastic people. And it occurs to me that the playtesting process is different when you're coming at it from a production standpoint versus a design standpoint, right? Like it feels like it's got to be different because you got to be looking at different stuff. So walk us down the path of how do you do the playtesting and development side of things? At least, how do you guys do it? Like, where is your focus?
You want me to run point on this? All right, fantastic.
That's between you two.
Yeah, you start this one, Paul. I'm going to excuse myself for 1 second. Pardon me.
You do what you have to do. Okay, so the first moment comes when you're looking at the game in the first place going, is this a game that I want to be publishing? And the first move is to run it through your own internal test of, is this game solid? Is there something unique here? Is there something solid to build upon, etc.? It is a choice built on your own personal biases. It's a choice built on your perception of the game's overall arc in terms of its appeal to other customers. And you've got to be looking at it through that lens if you're going to be having anything that has the potential for a wide enough audience to be worthy of a print.
Sure.
Of a significant size.
So got to have that spark, right?
Something has to catch you. I was just talking with this about Travis from Action Phase. There are too many just good games out there these days. You've got to step above that somehow. There has to be something unique, and it can't just be, oh, this is how we do worker placement. There needs to be something in there that's got some body to it.
Sure.
And that's the first thing. And once we do that ourselves and say, hey, we're going to sign this game, we take it on and we run it through our own internal house playtesting. Now, with Patient Zero, for example, one of the big challenges has been this is our first cooperative game, and we wanted to work with Jay to make sure that it landed at the level of difficulty that we were hoping for, which is about 33%. We're wanting about a 33% win ratio in this game.
Oh wow!
And
that's pretty. That's pretty intense, right?
33 to 40. We don't want this to be a cakewalk. We want you to make you feel like you've won the experience due to a little bit of luck, but also a lot of how you have decided to use your powers and use your team to work together to get these issues solved, rather than it just being a one-person blow through.
Sure.
I got by on pure luck. And the other part of that was to make sure, like you mentioned before, how you like an act base to your games. Mm-hmm. One of the things that drew us to Patient Zero in the first place was the fact that there was a definitive 3-act structure in it, where there's the first half is they're building up who the question of who this person is that's let this virus loose, and then the second act begins when, oh, you found him and he now knows where you are and he starts influencing you, and it leads up to a big climactic third act, which is you bringing the final showdown straight to him, her, or it. So to make sure that the game continues to have that tension in the areas that you find important is essential. While you're doing that and trying to balance out the win ratios was a challenge. The challenge was based because Jay had such a solid design, and so many of the levers in this game are tuned to within an inch of its life. This is not an American car. This is a Euro sports car that has been tweaked to get maximum performance. And if you make one small adjustment, things can go way off the edge very quickly. And we spent a lot of time figuring out what the give and take were on those levers so that we could land that ratio.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and I don't want to speak for you, I'm kind of trying to boil it down so that way I understand this. Having never been a publisher, it sounds like the way that you approached the development of this is you already recognized that the game was mechanically or mathematically or however you want to say it, tuned pretty well, but you had specific, and you had a result that you were looking for, and then you kind of back engineered it, right? So
pretty much.
As a designer, your job is to make sure that the levers work, to make sure that stuff works. As a publisher, you have a specific style that you want the game to come out with. Like you want it to be this, you want it to be tough in your case. You want it to have a 1 in 3 win ratio or something like that, or you want it to have a certain story, and so your playtesting goals come at, how do I make this result versus I already know how I want how do I make this work? And I feel like that's an interesting distinction. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. I would say that it's about the player experience. This is what I want the player to feel on the other side of this. And for a co-op, I don't want it to feel like a cakewalk or a coin flip. I want you to feel like you had to work for it.
Okay.
Other games like Quicksilver, you just want something fun and silly to play and drink and throw some dice and shoot some airplanes down. Something heavier like, well, so let's go back to Feast for Odin. It's, taking all of these elements that were disparate throughout his games and combining them all into one cohesive experience. That's the design goal of that, and how it all ties together to make that experience for the player, no matter how big or small that board is. So yeah, I think it's looking at this and how do we maximize the player experience out of all of this. And then from there, taking it and getting it in front of people and going, is this, at this point, it starts becoming semi-blind, where you're bringing it in front of relatively kind audience and go, does this experience that we've built match what we believe it is, or is there something, are we deluding ourselves? Is this harder than it looks?
Right.
We've been doing this for hundreds of play tests. We understand sort of the way that you can be more successful than others. How hard of a learning curve is it for you to understand how to play the game well?
Right.
Sure.
And then after that is where we currently rest, which is now we're not even in the room. Please take these rules, look at it, verify that you can play this game exactly the way that we've said you can play this game, and make sure that that experience still comes through.
Yeah, I think blind play testing is the scariest part as a designer, but probably the most important. Like if you can't hand the game off and have somebody learn how to play it, it's not there. That's
and there's
awesome.
so many great ways to, like, there's so many great tools that are out now, like just hangouts like this or Periscope or anything where you can just sit there as a silent partner watching somebody else play and just not say a word while it's going on. Like this is a golden age for blind play testing.
I never thought of that. That's really smart. This is proof positive that the people on my show are smarter than I am, because that is not a thing that I would have ever thought of, but that totally makes sense. You basically just hang a webcam over a table. I mean, not literally in this case, but you stream it and let the player, say, hey, log into this thing. I promise I won't talk. I just want to see what happens. That's so smart.
And then you have
I
a
would
set of
do that
questions that
thing.
they ask at the end, like does this, how did this feel? How did that feel? Talk to me about what you thought your player agency was. Talking through all of those things at the end is a great way to just wrap up the experience and go, yep, that was what we needed, or wow, that was way off base and we need to re-engineer this.
So something is askew, as they say. Very good. So, all right. So I'm not, and I confess my ignorance here. I'm sorry that I'm a terrible interviewer. I should have been able to do more homework here.
Yeah.
So the potential, like the setup between Randy and Paul, like, do one of you feel like you approach playtesting in a different way than the other? Like, do you guys have? Yeah. Is playtesting part of both of your thing? Like, Randy, where do you land on this whole on the playtesting spectrum? Do you lead playtest?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that one. Specifically, because we divide most of our roles, as Paul is the heads the development end of things, and I had the creative end of things.
Okay.
So my end of play testing, where I take the most notes directly back to my production schedule, is to say that people are actually interacting with pieces to make sure. It's mostly my job to make sure that the visual experience, the user experience of everything is acting the same way we want the rule book to act.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's less on your end. It's less about the mechanics of the game itself and more about how the players are interacting with the game. Like, does that sound right?
Yeah, exactly. Just to make, and it may not be that cut and dry. I certainly have,
Sure. Yeah, obviously there's going to be bleed over, right?
Side as well.
Sure.
And but yeah, it's when it comes into the day, I take it as my fault, at least if people are confused because the main board elements are laid out in a funky way, and it's,
or the central board is 40% smaller than it should be, and therefore you can't people have to stand up and peer over it for 5 minutes. Would that so things like that?
That is something I would hope I would catch before a thing goes to production and try to do my best to fix. Yeah.
I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. All right.
Throwing it here's. I think I've got a good analogy to how we split our workloads. Let's take Paradox for example.
I like analogies.
It was on my shoulders to sit down and make sure that the chip draw didn't end up with a busted board, so that at every beginning of every game, your chances of getting a busted board are well in the low percentages. It's never bulletproof, but we went through every single program we could and ran Monte Carlo sequence after Monte Carlo sequence to get those numbers. That was on me. On Randy was coming up with a visual design elements that tied everything that the game was trying to communicate together in a clever way. He worked with the designers to make sure that the worlds came out differently. He came out with the iconography to back everything up so that it had a cleanliness to it that made it easy for everything else to pop out. Did that answer the question?
That absolutely did. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that, it's funny. I talked about this in the show. I've been I'm sort of trying to build, for lack of a better term, a design studio. Three of us that are all very smart people. Well, two smart people and me are working together to sort of bounce our design ideas off of each other. So that way and I think that multiple pairs of eyes thing is the thing that I've always felt like I was missing. And it sounds like that's, you know what I mean? Like on my end, it's really hard. You get too close to the forest to see the trees. And sometimes your blind spots can be huge on a thing that you've been working on personally for so long. When you guys have two pairs of eyes looking at these things going, hey, well, look, the mechanics are great, but this is ugly and I don't know what this piece does, or this is gorgeous. I totally get it. But unfortunately, the board has broken 3 times already this game. This is probably not okay. It's good to kind of have that. I love the idea that there's two people that sort of checks and balances.
Yeah, definitely. I think Randy keeps my more what's the word for it? Anal retentive is not the word. But
it might be the word, Paul.
It might be the word.
It might be that is definitely a word.
It is definitely a word. I can kind of get into the underpinning of the game and go, oh, this is amazing, and all this stuff is going on. But Randy's really good at keeping me in check and going, but is it fun? Does this make sense? Like, help me understand how this lays out in your world that's completely in your brain right now. And I hope that I can provide some checks for Randy in the same way. It's good to have somebody you're working with who fills your gaps. That has been the best thing about working with Randy through all these games, and working with Jay in this one in particular. He's got such a encyclopedic knowledge of game design. He's so good. He's done everything from board games to RPGs and everything in between. And to have somebody like that really bouncing ideas.
Swing. Yes, no, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, and now I'm babbling. So
no, you're
good. If you're gonna be doing this stuff with your studio, I would make sure that the people who are working with you are people who fill in your gaps, and they're not just people who think like you.
Boy, do they ever. We've actually only been working together since BillCon. So that was, 3 weeks ago?
A couple of weeks ago? Yeah.
We actually decided at BillCon, we're like, this is stupid. All 3 of us like to design games. Why are we not working together again? Like, why have we not did? And so, and we've already, it's been really eye-opening for all of us on different things where we've been able to look at stuff and go, oh, and the brainstorming sessions have been just a ton of fun. So I love that. So let me ask you this. How do you get playtesters? Like, I mean, obviously it's really easy if you have a game group, right? Like you get, okay, well, here's this, guys, play this thing, and all of my playtesting has sort of come from either that, like, you're my friend, right? Shut up and sit down and play this and see if this, make sure this doesn't suck, or going to events like Protospiel. So let's put Protospiel aside. Besides those sorts of open, organized playtesting, how does Split Second do its? How do you get your playtesters?
Well, for the semi blinds, people we know and recognize and can give us good feedback, we will sit down and say, hey, here's the box. We're going to go over here for a bit. Get back to us after an hour or so, and we'll decompress and answer any questions you've got, and vice versa. When it comes to when we're going out for full blinds, there are some people who we trust for being able to give us brutally honest feedback that we simply say, here's a box. We're going to go over here, put it up on Periscope so we can watch at home and take notes. And it's relatively easy in a city the size of Chicago to get people who want to be a part of the process. Like because half these people are designers themselves, and they'll be like, "Oh, you show you mine, I'll show you yours." Blah blah blah. It's the city rolls deep. I mean, we've got Ben Rossett out here now. We've got a ton of people who've got some real pedigrees to them.
Excellent.
Yeah, Don Eskridge just moved out here. We've
That's
been
true.
Play to call his new prototypes. Good guy.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Brandon, you've been so quiet over there, which is
that's my job.
it is not your job, sir. Your job is to be charming and handsome, as always.
He's doing that by being quiet.
So have you done much in the way of playtesting?
We don't. I found it. I don't know what the word is. Aggravating to me to do the playtest.
Okay.
I don't have that, and I think most playtesters, as you were saying, have that designer bug in them somewhere, buried deep. True. I don't have it. It's nowhere to exist in me. I have no desire to do that. I like digging in and figuring out games, but I don't like. I'm more of a finished product kind of guy.
Yeah.
And
I recognize that after trying it 2 or 3 times, trying to help people, and I realize I'm not of much help to you. So,
it's funny that you say that. I one of my playtest moments early in my attempt at a design career was, shut up, sit down and play this because you're my friends. And the kind of feedback that I got was, well, that was fun.
Yep.
Like, cool.
Yep.
That's the worst feedback to receive ever.
Exactly. And I'll sit and play it with
right
you.
Up there with, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It was fun. We did this. We did that. What are we doing next?
We liked your part. You were the best one.
Yeah. So it's funny because you don't just have to find people, you have to find the right people, right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, you can't just get any 3 gamers and stick them in a room and hand them a box, because some gamers have, like Brandon and a lot of my other friends actually around here, have zero desire to play a prototype. None. They're like, this is ugly. I don't understand it. Why didn't you draw anything? And it's as an amateur designer, part of me is like, you guys are jerks. Really? You can't just do this for an hour? And then I realize, well, what if there are things I don't want to play Munchkin for an hour? What if my friend said, shut up and play Munchkin? Well, I wouldn't want to do that. Why should I make them do a thing they don't want to do?
That's the thing, Bill. I will happily do it for an hour. It's just you're not going to get much out of that hour.
Okay, you'll play the prototype, but just at the end, it'll be like,
You saw what happened.
You were watching, right? You know,
watching, right?
What the hell?
I could sit here and move the pieces for you.
I'll push buttons all day.
Yep.
I don't know what I don't. And and I guess that makes a lot of sense. So to piggyback off of Paul's analogy from earlier, everybody wants to drive the cool car. Not everybody wants to know how to fix the engine or to build the engine or to tweak the carburetor. Is that even a thing anymore? I don't know. It sounded like a car word, so I said it.
Actually, that kind of details on the best feedback I've gotten, I've ever heard on playtesting stuff, which is always listen in when somebody is saying that they're enjoying it or not enjoying it, but don't take their feedback on what it's going to take to fix it, because they're probably not looking at the things in the same light as you. Trust your gut and trust. That's the beauty of being able to see it on a video. You can see when somebody's engaged or when they've already shut down, and being able to see that is so critical.
I'm
I look for the moment when they lean into.
Were you talking to me?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I can't see you over your big space phone.
No, I meant I was actually not just pointing out the fact that I have a sexy new phone. That's very exciting. But mostly I was pointing out the fact that one of the triggers for me when I'm teaching a game, even if it's not playtesting, just literally teaching somebody a game, is if they are picking up their phone every 4 minutes, then I know that they've checked out, right? Like at some point, this person has officially mentally been like, I would rather play Candy Crush than watch this game happen.
The growls made it sound like Randy has smacked a phone or two out of people's hands.
Or at least wanted to. Randy, have you slapped anyone's iPhone out of their hand? Violence is not the...
It's never
Not
come
to
to
date.
it. It's never come to it. Nah, maybe my 3-year-old daughter. I've done it.
Gotcha.
When that happens, I usually end up going, "It's okay. You don't have to play this game. We can find something else."
Yes, and that's exactly what I do as well. Like if I see someone, because
and then I pull out Through the Ages, and that just they're out.
Hey, can we go back to your thing?
You know what's funny is that my process, generally speaking, is when I'm teaching a game, about halfway through the game, for the first play, I will stop and say, "What do you guys think?" Because I want that feedback before somebody knows if they're winning or losing. When you ask them at the end and they've just gotten their face kicked in, they're probably not super happy with your game. Or maybe they are, but then they're one of those rare unicorns that doesn't mind losing, right? And I feel like that's not a thing that exists everywhere in the world. So I'd like to stop and say, yeah, are you enjoying this? Because if not, I'm fine stopping. I just want, if you're miserable, I do not want someone to sit and be miserable for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That is not the goal of playing board games. The goal is for everybody to have a good time. So yeah, and it's kind of the same way. I try to do the same thing when I have people play test my designs as well. So, stop. Hey, what do you think? I'd like to have that conversation once everyone understands the mechanics, but before winners and losers have happened. And I feel I think
the time for that conversation and that kind of interaction with the group is before you present it to the publisher and say, "Hey, I got this game and I think we're ready for it."
For sure, because if you still have people being miserable, and you're handing that to a publisher, then you're just on crack, and that's
pretty much.
You should not do that thing. That's terrible.
That's a thing you should not do.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about Patient Zero off and on. Is there a time frame? Can you give us a scoop? Do we know a thing?
We know we're really, really close. It's mostly we've got one last playtest that we're waiting for feedback on. I think we're ready to go there.
So are we going to see Are we going to see a Kickstarter before the end of the year?
Probably not before the end of the year, but definitely in first quarter of 17.
Okay.
We definitely want to try to make this a Gen Con 17 release, and that means getting it out before then. Yes, you have to publish a game before the convention you show.
That would be handy. Now, you know what? You say that, but that is not the case.
Always the case, yeah.
The
all pre-order convention.
There have been a number of pre-order booths that I have sat down at over my years going to conventions. You would not be the first one. Nope. I got to say, I got the chance to play Patient Zero in its very early form about a year ago with you, Paul. Yeah. One of the first. I think it was when you first got it.
We had just first signed it up, and we showed it up at the Gaming Hoopla.
Yep. Yeah, the mini Hoopla.
Yeah.
Which is the off. So the off season, we just rent the hall for the weekend was what we did there, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, I'm a sucker for co-ops anyway. So I already knew I was going to like it, and I'm a sucker for throwing a million dice. And I really dug this game, and matter of fact, you guys quoted me in your promotion on the Kickstarter for Paradox as how much I liked that one, because I played that for the first time with you at Geekway in 2015, right? And I said, I think I said something along the lines of, if you had it in a box right now, I would buy it.
Yep.
Which is exactly how and low, but I did.
Yep, and now it's behind your head.
There it is.
Now it's in the space of space.
So as far as I'm concerned, you guys have the pedigree. I can't wait for this to come out, because this is going to be really solid.
Thank you.
The artwork that's been coming in has been nothing short of top shelf.
Well, and see, that's the other thing, is that Paradox is a pretty game too. So if you guys, and Quicksilver's gorgeous, Paradox too. Yeah, you guys have really got your stuff together when it comes to doing the visual side of things, which that
is all on Randy. He's the DJ. I'm the rapper.
Can I show you a Google Hangouts quality resolution preview of a little bit of artwork?
Yes, please. Let us see stuff for the first time ever.
You need to see
Paul, you want to tell me to stop real quick?
Not at all.
Look at he slowly.
Why would I do that?
I think the problem that we're going to have is that we have to focus on. So Randy, keep talking while you're doing
it. And
Bill, quit talking.
And I can't see what. Hold on, let me see if I can get my camera up so I can actually see what I'm looking at. There we go. So I can see that we're looking at Patient Zero. There's our logo. We've got some of our survivors here. This artwork is done by a genius by the name of Matthias Tapia. He lives in Chile. He is did a lot of character concept art for video games like Borderlands 2. Has done artwork for D&D, Pathfinder, many awesome things. He's a freaking amazing guy to work with, and I want everybody to hire him.
Yeah.
But I think that's already happening.
Very awesome.
So, but yeah, so here's our. This is the first, and there's a overhead light, and well, you all
That's all right.
put up with that. But yeah, so that's what I got to show off for the moment.
That is
Very
gorgeous.
cool. Like that.
I was so
Thank
happy.
you.
I was so happy when you said Borderlands 2 because that was the first thing that popped into my head. I'm a big Borderlands fanboy, and when I saw that art style, I'm like, "That's amazing!" And then you said, "I'm like, oh,
Yay.
super
A
cool."
very
It was a,
conscious design. Very conscious design choice from the day we started talking to Jay about it.
That's awesome.
It was that his concept work on Borderlands specifically was one of the first things Jay pitched us as. Here's what it looks like in my head. Here's kind of a style that I feel, and so I'm like, all right, well, I'll do my research. We'll find out the name of this dude. And in addition to trying to track down some other artists, because I assumed I couldn't afford this guy.
Sure.
Or he was too busy, and it turned everything just worked out really well, and we couldn't be any happier with his work. He just sent us the last bits of illustration for the game, and which means that it's now everyone's waiting on me to finish putting all the designs together.
Yeah, get it in gear, Randy. I want.
Yeah.
What are you doing on the show? Are you working?
Make my money. I will say this, and I'm not just sucking up because you guys are on the show or because I happen to like both of you. You got a day one backer in me because I really liked that game when I played it before. And if it's going to be that pretty, I'm in. I have no doubt. And you have a day one backer in Brandon anyway because he's a day one backer for everything. So Captain Buys a Lot over there will give you money. Just if you put out a box and you tell him there's a game in it,
I did not back that white box thing, whatever it was.
Oh, the Emperor's New Clothes?
Yes, I didn't. So there's one thing.
I thought about it just because prototyping, but
I actually got a copy of that from Jonathan. It's amazing. It's the best game out there.
Absolutely. Zero regrets ever. The time I've spent on Emperor's
so much trolling. This is like the biggest troll in the history of the games. I hate it.
No, seriously. As an improviser and being like having to make up stuff on the spot like that, this is a training camp for it. Like,
what was that? So there used to be a web-based game that was something. It was sort of based on the London Underground map, and it was something station, and it was basically this non-game that people would improvise and make up rules to and confuse people that weren't in on the joke. So the whole idea was that they were playing a game, but there wasn't actually any game, and they would make up rules about red tickets and blue tickets and a coin on the ground and stuff like. It was this weird internet thing that went around like 8 years ago, and the Emperor's New Clothes was basically the cardboard version of that, as far as I could tell. And that there's nothing wrong with that.
I thought it was the cardboard version of Baron Munchausen, which I adore. Yeah,
there you go. Speaking of which,
new version. It's going to be fantastic.
I play tested a game at the latest Protospiel that's based off of that. I'm just throwing
yes, you have.
I did. It was fun. Yeah, it was weird, but it was fun. Okay. I'll
we can't talk about it, but it is a lot of fun, and people who are drawn to that style are going to love it.
I didn't say anything about you being associated with it, Paul. That's entirely your fault. All right, moving on. So you guys, I think that I love. And I say this over and over again, and I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record, but I love getting in the heads of industry people about the stuff that goes into the work that makes these awesome games that we play. And I think that playtesting is one of the most underappreciated parts of that process, because I think without the playtesting, you get
rushed product.
I was about to name a game, and then I stopped myself, and then I was about to name another game, and then I stopped myself, and then I said, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to be a jerk.
You're a kind soul, sir.
Yes, I tried. So yeah, I love that, and it's fun seeing how it's all organized from the publisher standpoint. So that's so cool. So
excellent.
So what do you guys? Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead. No, give her hell.
I was going to say, what do you guys think of things like Tabletopia and what's the other one as far as using those? Yeah, as far as doing play testing and things of that nature. Have you messed around with that at all? Or
there was Vassal before that. There's a lot of different formats for it. I understand that people want to charge for it. They want to be, if you're going to be supporting it, we want it to be something that can be supported. It's going to cost money for you to be able to do this for time. And I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I'd rather just send a box to you with a whole bunch of cards and dice and go here, because that's not going to be the primary format that you're going to have for the game, unless it is, right? If I'm wanting this experience to be on the table, I need to understand that shuffling 258 cards all of the time can be a negative play experience. I enjoyed Millennium Blades a lot, but that the setup for that game is a bear trying to shuffle 40 different packs of cards. Like you can it makes a fantastic game on a simulated on something simulated, but in the real world, you got to test for that.
I'm grinning because last week on the show I ranted about Marvel Legendary because of exactly that. About how there were 103 different packs of this that we had to randomize from, and 38 packs of that to randomize from, and just stacks and stacks and stacks for days. And thinking to myself, no, thank you. I don't want. Yeah, so I that makes.
I could actually be playing a game in the time it's taking me to set up this game.
Well, see, now there are some games that I will forgive that for, like
Rosenberg games.
Yeah, like a Rosenberg,
sure,
or like Eclipse, or any game where I feel like the game experience is enough to warrant that setup time. Like if I can get a rich enough experience that I feel like that half an hour wasn't wasted, and it isn't wasted. You know, people derive their enjoyment from different aspects. Sure. I don't mean it that way, but if I feel like I can get enough out of the rest of the gameplay experience, I don't mind the setup time. But if it's a game where that setup time is just the lead up to something, that doesn't blow me away. And I think I would have never thought of the tactile nature of things like shuffling too many cards. That's not a thing that ever popped into my head. That's really cool.
How flimsy or how hard it is to move things around the board, or what am I going to knock out with my fat fumbly fingers,
or how much too small the action board is in the center of the table for the number of spaces on it.
I think he has an axe to grind.
I think he does.
An axe he got from Odin.
It's a battle axe. No, and remember that this is potentially game of the year. It's so good. All right. Well, you know what is also good is the rapid fire segment. And Paul, you've done it before.
Yes, I have.
So you are exempt, sir. You never have to do rapid fire twice unless you want to. So you're exempt.
Bring it on.
You want to do it?
Yeah, come on.
Why you gotta be that guy? Now I have to write another set of. I have to write another set of questions. Nobody likes you. All right. We'll figure it out.
I make life difficult.
All right. But we are going to make Randy go first. So, Randy Field of Split Second Games, are you prepared for the rapid fire segment?
Of course not.
All right. You're going to get 5 questions. Answer them as fast as you can. Ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Randy, your favorite cooperative game that is not Patient Zero?
Pandemic.
Okay. A game that doesn't hit your game table nearly often enough for your tastes?
For my tastes. Oh God, I'm gonna Scrabble.
What did you say?
Scrabble.
Okay, there you go. A game that you feel like was wildly overproduced.
Wildly overproduced.
So like,
oh man,
too much stuff in the box or
unnecessarily
not
overproduced.
too many copies were made, but there's way too much stuff going on. I kind of felt that way about some of the big box Star Wars games, Armada, etc., like that.
Okay.
But
all right, Randy, a food that bacon absolutely does not belong on.
Cotton candy.
Oh, good call. And Pepsi or Coke?
Pet Coke.
Pet Coke. Got it. Well done, Randy. See, that wasn't so bad. You only had like one tiny meltdown. That wasn't so bad.
Now I want to try bacon. Cotton candy.
Bacon cotton candy. I think all you have to do is go to any state fair in the Midwest, and that's probably somewhere. I'm sorry, that would be deep fried bacon cotton candy.
Deep fried bacon cotton
if someone
candy.
can deep fry cotton candy for me, I'm gonna be so happy.
That sounds awful. That sounds.
I think you have to come up with some sort of aerosol batter so it doesn't compress, so it doesn't collapse the structure.
No, it's just going to be this molten blob of goo.
Just
remember the fried
It'd be
ice
like the
cream at
worst
Casa
donut
Gallardo?
you ever had.
That sounds nasty.
Mhm.
All right. Since Paul and Bowden wants to do rapid fire again, he
Come
gets
on.
to do rapid fire again.
Sure.
So, are you ready, Paul?
Sure, bring it.
Okay. Here we go. Paul, your favorite card game?
Teach you.
Okay. Your favorite partnership game that isn't Teach You, because no repeats.
Team play.
Okay. A game that you think was published before its time.
Before its time, Civilization.
Okay. A movie that you wish had a good game licensed with.
Oh, jeez. The Born Identity.
There you go. And rock, paper, scissors.
Paper.
Of course. Well done, sir. Very
Thank you.
good. See? I made those up on the fly. Did I sound
Not
like I
bad,
knew
not
what
bad
I was
at all.
doing?
The only thing now that I think about it, I'd say Colorado instead of Teach You, but that was fine.
Mm.
And then you would have had Teach You for your partnership game.
Yep. No, I
Paul-
still would have kept team play. Team play is just too much fun.
Yeah, it does sound amazing. That's one that I'm hoping I'll get to.
The fun
Add
game
that
with
to the
the dumb
BGG
name.
list. Add that.
Can I replace Scrabble with Cosmic Encounter?
Nope. It's in there forever. You're stuck with it.
No.
If
Okay.
Suzanne has
That's
to
okay.
live with the shame of Milton Bradley, you
Milton
have to live
Bradley.
with Scrabble. That's how that works. So,
That's
Randy,
okay. No shame.
Randy and Paul, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I hope you guys.
Thanks for having us. Always
Absolutely.
a pleasure.
If people wanted to find out more about you, where would they go?
There are many places. You could start with our website, www.splitsecondnames.com. There's also our Twitter handle, which is Split2ND Games. And finally, you can see us both on Board Game Geek at various times throughout the day. So between those three sites, you should be able to find us.
Randy,
And
do
on
you tweet?
Facebook. We got Facebook.
And also on Facebook.
Randy, do you tweet?
I have just gotten back into Twitter. And you can reach me at RA3NDY.
Okay. Gotcha. And of course,
It's a silent 3.
And of course, the Justice League of Podcasting, headed up by Aquaman himself, Brandon.
That's
I
right.
never would have assumed. Never would have assumed Aquaman.
Yeah,
Well,
'cause
we're going for the new Aquaman, the new Jason. What is his name? Momoa from.
I'm not
Game of
certain
Thrones.
any Aquaman would have been a good fit. But you do you. You do you.
Yep. Everybody knows where to find me. I'm VacaBCK on Twitter or at WDYPTW.
which is super easy to remember.
It is. And easy to say.
And spoiler alert,
It's off the tongue.
spoiler alert, there's a chance that a certain bearded podcaster with a funny hat will be starting to submit audio reviews for said podcast.
Anytime he wants to, he
I
has
may-
a door open.
I may already have recorded a thing.
Well,
Just throwing
then
that
you
out there.
may submit it if you like.
I'm on it. I'm on it. So thanks, guys. I hope everybody had a good time here. I
Good to
love
see you guys again.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you guys so much for having us.
This was great.
Absolutely. The Cubist will be back next week. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.